Hello and welcome again to Conscious TV. My name is Iain McNay and my guest today is Sheikh Burhanuddin. And Sheikh was suggested by one of our viewers. I had a look at his life, his story, and there's some fascinating things there, and I'm really happy that he's come to London to do the interview with us. Welcome, Sheikh. And I'd like to start when you were very young, because you were telling me on the phone that when you were very young, you were very drawn to nature.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you had to get your mother's permission to spend a lot of time in nature.
Yeah.
So what was going on at that time? What do you remember from that time?
When I was very young, I always felt a very, very strong call to nature. Yeah. And it was a place where I felt most peaceful and most connected, yeah, somehow. And I loved to watch the animals. I tried always to come close to the deers in the forest. It was a forest close by to our home. And then finally it came to a point that I asked my mother to stay in the forest overnight also. Yeah. And I was very interested in plants, which plants you could eat, which plants you couldn't, you know. One plant I ate was not so lucky one time, but I managed. And I felt very, very integrated into the forest. I was watching the forest keeper, you know, the one who professionally looks after the forest, no?
Yes.
And their team, and it was always my joy to watch them, but they never found me. Yeah. Even so, I made little tents because I had, when I started to sleep in it, I had to try to protect it, no? And I also slept in the winter time in the forest, which is not as bad as it sounds because the snow keeps you warm in a way. So, and I made my homework at home, but I made the rest of the time I basically spent in the forest when I was young. And
were any of the other children interested in that?
When I became 10, I had a great need of a friend. Yeah. And so I was asking God somehow to have a friend. And in fact then he came, and we spent from then on every day together in the forest as well, not sleeping there because his parents didn't want that, but we shared almost everything. Yeah.
So when you say you ask God, what does that mean practically?
Well, you know, it's very difficult to speak about God. I use it as a word. I could call it also existence, or I could call it the supreme intelligence, or whatever you like, you know, what is easier. But I use the word because in a way it's the word which is tells the most. Yeah. But it also conflicts the most. So that's not my intention. But if I had to write a book, yeah, the first sentence would be, God exists. Yeah.
Because there's so much confusion in the world about God. People say they act in the name of God.
Well, if you have a confusion on that, no, and I meet people who have that sometimes, then I say you don't need to call it. You don't need to give it a name, you know. You call it love. Call it truth. Yeah. You can say God is truth, but you can also turn it around. The truth is God. Or God is love. You can turn it around. The love is God. So if you just keep with truth and love, you can never go wrong. Yeah. If you go just with God, it can happen that you go wrong, as we see in so many movements.
Yeah.
There's a danger. Yeah.
And then when you were 10, you found a photograph in a book, didn't you, that really drew you?
Yes, I was coming into a library and I was looking, and somehow a book fell in my hand. It was from, I forgot it, he was a man, an Englishman I think, or American, that he wrote about his travel experiences through India. Yeah, Blyton I think was his name. And I opened the book, and there was a photograph from Ramana Maharshi inside, which I didn't know that it was him. But it touched me so strong that I thought I have to have it, but I didn't have the money to buy the book. Yeah. So I came the next day back with a blade, and I cut it out, and I went home. And later, when I was 18, I came back to the bookshop and paid the book. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit later, you read the Bible when you were very young.
Yeah, yeah.
And
when I was 12.
Carlos Castaneda, you
that was a
enjoyed.
very important thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that corresponded very much with my nature thing, you know. And so I started to practice a lot of things which he described in his books. For example, walking in the night through the forest, you know, with this technique which he described in one of his books, to bring your legs very up, no?
So describe that. So this is from Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah, and I tried that out.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So you were walking in the forest at night, and when you say it was big steps or high steps.
Yes, yes.
And what did you feel that did for you?
Not too much, really. You know, not too much. Yeah. It was somehow I understood. Of course, if you make higher steps, you will less stumble in the forest.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
So that's a practical and advisable thing to do. Yeah.
Did you ever have any fear being
No.
No. So you'd hear strange noises and.
No, there is not one noise in nature which made me to fear. Yeah.
Where do you think this attraction to nature came from to start with? Were either your parents very drawn to nature?
Not at all. Yeah, my mother actually, she was sometimes walking with me, you know, but she was not exactly a woman so much nature-oriented. Yeah. I really can't tell you. Yeah, it just happened. Yeah.
And then when you were around 14, which is incredibly young for what you wanted to do, you wanted to find a master.
In fact, I wanted to find the master much earlier, but when I was 14, it became very much a pressure, let's say. Yeah. And I felt the need, the very urgent need, to find a man who is like Jesus, for example. Yeah, that was one of the orientations. And then with 14 also Osho Bhagwan appeared on the scene. Yeah, very attractive. And when I saw him, I always thought that my master should have a beard. Yeah, you know. And it was somehow always clear to me. Yeah, the master must have a beard. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever spend time with Bhagwan?
I had been in India in the year 80-81.
When he was in Pune.
Yeah, I was in Pune, and I lived literally 20 meters away from his home. But when I came, he had made a pause. Yeah. And so I didn't really meet him face to face. But I lived very close to him, and I saw him 2 times in his bathroom. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was a sannyasin of his for 3 years, many years ago. Okay. Yeah. And then, just looking at the notes here, then at 18, you went to India.
Yeah. for the same reason, to find the master.
Yeah. Did you find the master there?
No, not at that time. It was in a way also very frustrating, because I thought, I haven't read anything about India before. The only information I had was through the book of Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. That was the picture of India for me. And as it was not the time of internet also, you had to go to libraries and this and that, and I wasn't somehow interested in having information in advance. So I didn't buy a traveler book, like Lonely Planet or this kind of thing. We actually escaped from Germany because my friend was still minor aged. So we had to go by surprise, in a way, and we were not prepared at all. What is gonna be there? And our first contact with India was Calcutta, which was in the 80s, still a town of poverty and overpopulation. People died on the street, and they were collected in the morning by lorries. Very strong impressions for us.
So what was pulling you? Did you just remember what the energy was that was pulling you to follow this path?
Well, I always had India in my mind, and it's difficult to say, if you have not an external trigger, what actually makes you to move. So I had very little external trigger. Everything was triggered somehow, as there has been a plan settled down a long time ago. And I just had to follow it. And in a way, in my view, it is like this, that there is, for every one of us, already a history laid down long time ago. But it is not in all dimensions developed. Let's say two-dimensional. It is where you're born, it is what will be your name, what will be your shape. But certain things, your outer movements are basically defined. But how you are in your inside, that's up to you.
So would you say then, when people go through difficult periods, somehow they've lost the way in their plan?
No, you have to fall to develop. That is the principle. You cannot develop yourself if you don't have crises, if you don't have breakdowns. That's not possible.
Because often people say, especially on the spiritual journey, that something goes terribly wrong maybe with a teacher or with their health or something. They tend to say, well, I went off course and I didn't follow my path. But you're saying that helps to build up their strength, their character somehow.
There is a saying in Sufism, it says, where the dervish falls down is the place where he stands up.
Yes, no, I can connect with that personally. Yeah.
I think everyone can.
Yeah. So when you were in India, you decided to spend 3 months in solitude.
Right.
And just wrote notes.
Yes.
So how did that take place? Were you living in a cell at the time, or?
No, I was in a place which was called Dharamkot. That's near Dharamsala, McLeodganj. It's quite a popular place nowadays. Tibetan place, with Tibetan Buddhists mainly. And the Dharamsala was the headquarter of the Dalai Lama. I think it still is. And Because before I came to India, I came with 14, I came in contact with Buddhism also. Yeah. So somehow I entered India as a Buddhist. Yeah. But I couldn't find a Buddhist master really, you know. I wasn't really feeling much with them, you know. Yeah. I always thought they are monks. What can they possibly really know about life, you know, about relationships, about daily life issues, you know. So I was thinking the master I know or I want or I'm looking for must be a master who lives in this world, who shares somehow what I'm experiencing, you know.
So you were in this period of 3 months when you were silent.
Yeah.
Was that easy for you to do? It must have brought up a lot of things because you're having no dialogue with.
Well, when you go into silence, is maybe in the beginning a little odd, but very, very quickly it develops as a very peaceful thing, not to have to speak. Yeah, that's an incredible relief.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And also the effect it has on people is very nice. Yeah, they are much more tender, much more present in a way, and much more sensitive towards you. So it was a very happy time. The difficulty was, in fact, to return. Yeah. As I had the agreement with my friend to do it only 3 months, which was already a lot. Yeah. So he had to do all the shopping, you know, and all these kind of things. I think it was, in some aspect, more a challenge for him than for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I agreed with him that 3 months is it, and then I come back. But when it came to the end, it was very difficult for me to come back. Yeah, I actually didn't like it. Yeah. If it was up to me, I would have stayed silent. Yeah.
Mm. It's such an alien thing to our modern world, isn't it? In the West, anyway. This being silent is just, everything is with social media. Everything's action, action, action the whole time, and it's as if it's something that is forgotten, really.
Right.
And we'll come on later because I know you've been on what you call seclusions, which have also been very important to you. At the end of this period of 3 months, you had a very dramatic experience, didn't you?
Yes, I was. Where I lived, there was a waterfall nearby, and I was always very drawn to that waterfall. So finally, I made my way towards it, and when I sat down there, I had a very strong experience which drew me out of my body, and I started to travel. And I had a very strong light experience. Yeah. But the light was a kind of conscious being. Yeah. And I was determined to stay there. So I was asking if I could stay here. And the answer was no, you can't stay here. And I was asking why can I not stay here? And he said, was a male voice, there is people, they need you. Mm. And I said, who is needing me? There is only my mother. Yeah. And she will be fine. Yeah, I was sick. Yeah. And there is no other. Yeah. I only have one friend. He will be fine also. I said, there is no one needs me. But he said, there is and there will be. And so you can't stay here. You have to come back.
Mm.
And then I was sent back somehow, and this was sad, actually. It was a sad moment. Yeah. I felt repelled in a way, because I thought this would have been the ideal life, Just leave, stay there, and be happy.
So when you say you were repelled, what was it that repelled you about coming back to the world?
Well, living in this existence, has a certain struggle, has a certain effort, right? And I didn't have any idea what I could do in the world, even so, I had been a musician from very young, and I was very active also in music, actually, which is not, it wasn't told to you because somehow it wasn't appearing in the interview, But I was very, very drawn to music, and I spent a lot of time exercising the instrument. I played guitar, and so my idea was actually to become a musician, but there's not really an easy career, let's say like this.
So, you came back to the world.
Came back to
and
the world.
then I think it was a couple of years later, you met Krishnamurti in Switzerland.
I met Krishnamurti when I was 19.
Yes.
And that was in Salem, and in Switzerland, in this tent, and it was a perfect day, really a perfect day. The sky was blue, and it was pleasant weather, pleasant temperature, sun shining, and it was really extraordinary. And the place where they put the tent is a beautiful place. There's mountains around, and it's really beautiful. So I could get a good place in the tent, nearby the seat. And he was already in his 90s, I think, and very strong, affected by the Parkinson he had. So when he came, he was trembling. He could hardly make the way to the chair. But even so, his presence was enormous. And then he did a thing, which is, I came only later to know, there's actually really an impossible thing. And it's what that, he tried somehow to fix the microphone, And as he was having such a strong tremor, he couldn't really make it. Then came an assistant, but he didn't like the assistant to do it for him. So he closed his eyes, and he concentrated, and the tremor stopped. And he fixed it, and then he started again. And what he used to do then is to put his hands under his legs.
Yes, yes, I understand. So
to control it somehow. Not to make it visible also. And I will never forget the silence before he spoke. It was incredibly dense, And when he started his first sentence, it was almost like a bullet hits you. Very, very strong, very strong.
Because something I didn't mention, but I remember you told me, was that you, when you were young, also used to go and sit in a church because the silence was very important to you.
I did that when I was entering in school, actually, in elementary school. On my way was a church, a Protestant church, and it was open. It was open, always. And my habit was to go after school to sit there and to enjoy the silence there,
And my guess is that was always at the background of when you were wanting to be in the forest, in nature. There was always this pull to silence somehow.
Now that you say it, actually it looks like, but it wasn't a conscious thing for me at that time. It was more of an instinctive need, that I felt it is good for me. Yeah.
But you were able to trust your instincts.
Yeah.
So a lot of people can't, especially kids.
Well, I think it was something I always relied very much on it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So just to continue the sequence of your story, you then again saw a photograph of someone, Sheikh Nazim, do I pronounce it right?
Yeah.
Nazim.
Yeah.
And again you were pulled by a photograph, and then he became your teacher, your master.
Yeah, I was sitting in a esoteric bookshop in Freiburg, and it was a similar chair like this, and they passed by a woman which was a little bit out of herself, let's say. Yeah, she already had somehow made a scene in the shop, and so the shopkeeper said, "Please leave the shop," you know. And she had a book in her hand, and the book was about Sheikh Nazim. And before she left, she threw the book in my lap, and she was saying, "That's for you," yeah. And she went off. So I took it and I turned it around, and there was a little picture of Sheikh Nazim. And when I saw his picture, I was very, very attracted to him. I mean, he was an outstanding beauty. Yeah, it's the most beautiful man I've ever met, really. And that was very good captured in that picture.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you became his, would you call it disciple? He became your master?
Yeah.
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 So that was the person you thought you were looking for?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that? Now you'd found your master?
Well, he was and is the love of my life.
Mm. It's so interesting because I know you're married, and I presume you have a beautiful marriage, but you talk about your master being the love of your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, if you meet a real one, yeah, which is not that easy.
Yeah.
If you meet beyond that a king among the real ones.
Yeah.
A Meher Baba, a Ramana Maharshi, I call them kings. Yeah, kings of saints, kings of masters.
So what were the qualities he had that were so special to you?
Well, was first of all his incredible love, you know, which he emanated, which was just pouring out of him. You know. And if you came in his field, in his presence, you felt utterly safe, utterly recognized, utterly embraced, utterly loved and protected.
Mm.
Yeah. You were so secure and it was so absolutely evident and obvious, that he's just living in God, living in love, every single moment. Yeah. It was magic, really magic.
Mm.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he encouraged you to do was to go on what you call seclusions, what we might call retreats, more in the West.
Yeah, well, there was later, the first thing actually he asked me to do is to stop playing music. Yeah. That was the first thing.
And how was that?
That was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because my whole emotional life was somehow going through the instrument, you know. And to take that out, take that away from me, left me very fragile in a way. You know?
And why did he ask you to do that?
I can only speculate in a way, you know, because he never explained anything. Yeah. He was just saying, if you want to go forward, you have to stop all that.
Mm.
You don't listen music, you don't play music. When you hear a radio playing somewhere, you leave. You don't watch films, you don't watch movies. Nothing. Yeah. And somehow, if you do that, first of all, it makes you aware how much addicted we are to sound, to permanent sound. and how much sound is in the world all the time. That's another thing. Yeah. And nowadays it's factor 100. Yeah. And so I think he wanted to make me sober in a way, you know, that you experience yourself without any kind of crutches. No.
You experience yourself without any kind of crutches.
Mm.
So it's just a raw you there, whatever that is.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's tough, that's right. Very tough.
For a young man, it was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your devotion to him and your commitment to him was strong enough to go with it. Did you have doubts at the time?
No.
No.
You know, I was so crazy in love.
Yeah.
That if you would have asked me to run naked through the city, I would have done them without anything, you know. Yeah. It's I can say my trust towards him was total.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I'm interested in the seclusions, as you call them, because you were telling me you have 40 days in a small cell.
Yeah.
Just having a light soup every day.
Right.
You didn't leave the cell for 40 days.
No.
That's incredible commitment. Just to sit, presumably just sit there for 40 days.
Well, you know, the ego is very clever. Yeah. And if you do a thing with a limited time, you can sit it out, you know. If you're not ready, yeah, you just somehow can avoid yourself, to be watched, to be seen, yeah. Maybe not 100%, but if you are not really willing to know yourself, I think every method can be bypassed, yeah. So it sounds like a strong thing or a great thing, and of course the solitude in itself has a certain effect. The eating just the same soup every day has a certain effect, but those things were always easy for me. Yeah, fasting, any kind of discipline or ascetic thing was easy for me. Yeah. But to know yourself, you have to be ready. Yeah, you must really want it, because whatever you watch, it will be against the image you created. Yeah. So
explain that again. So whatever you watch would be against the image created. What do you exactly mean by that?
Well, we all create images about ourselves. No, we create roles. Yeah, and it's easy to understand that if we see how we interact differently with people. No, we have an interaction with our wife. We have an interaction with working people around us. No, we have an interaction different with the teacher in school or the boss. Yeah, we usually have different roles in which we slip very fast, and most of it unconscious. And we create a role, first of all, about ourselves, how we want to appear, how we would like to be seen. And if someone doesn't agree with that image, we feel attacked. No? And so when you start to observe yourself, you will see, for example, I'll give you a very easy example. For example, in the system we work first with complain. Yeah? So you watch complain. No?
This is when you're complaining about something or somebody on the outside.
It can be any kind of complaints. Let's start with little complaints. Little complaints are the coffee is not hot enough, it's raining again, the bus is not punctual, yeah. All kinds of odds, of obstacles,
Yeah.
which we meet, and we permanently complain about them. Yeah. Then the next step would be people don't understand me, don't respect me, don't value me. The higher degree of that would be to feel like a victim in your life. Then with your wife or with your husband, a wife may say, my husband never listens to me, doesn't give me real attention, he's there but he's not there, no? And so on and so on. Then we would go to the very big complaints. The government is useless. The ecological situation is disastrous. We are not worthy. Humans are not worthy. They are horrible. No.
So what and we'll a little bit discuss more on this on the end, because there's a whole process that you've developed. But you're basically saying it's about clearing the mind of all our programming. Is that correct? And coming back to something more essential that is the real, not so much the real us, but is the us in terms of our human form.
The mind, of course, has a purpose, but on the emotional side, the mind is the one entity which conflicts us, and which filters us also towards reality. I mean, every person who says that he has a spiritual interest, he has to make one question. And this is what is the purpose of life for me here. What is my purpose in life? And many people, they want to find a mission, or they think I have a special mission, and you find once they think they should become a healer, and you have these millions of Reiki masters in every country, and you have all kinds of healers and whatever, But in my point of view, we have a common mission, and this is to reach reality. Because in that, everyone will start to see and to understand what we should stop.
But you say reach reality, but that in itself is controversial, what reality is.
That's correct. But in the unconscious station, you always have a feeling that you need to reach. You need to fulfill, you need to conquer, you need to strive. In your mind, and this is what you find very much in the Advaita scene. If you have a clever mind and you can put words somehow cleverly together, you can talk yourself into thinking that you understand and thinking that you are present. But that's not the case. It's just another image you create of yourself as an enlightened person who can function and who can maintain that role as long as he has a certain setup. So you always find a certain setup.
You used the word feeling, so it comes back to the feeling that you must improve or you must follow. So it's coming to a place, I'm just trying to find the right words in more layman terms, but like where you're neutral, would that be right? So there's a neutrality there, you don't need anything.
Neutrality is something I like very much.
Okay.
It is the neutral force which holds our world together. In physics as well. So, in Sufism, the neutrality is the divine force. If you have trouble, you have to bring the neutral force inside.
Okay, I want to pick up, I'm looking at the clock, and we have about 15 minutes left, so I do want to touch on, you mentioned about healers, and I know there's an English healer called Stephen Turoff, who is somehow quite influential for you. Do you want to just talk us through what happened with him?
Yeah, he was very influential to me, and we're still connected. We don't see each other very much, but we have a kind of soul connection, let's say. Well, Stephen Turoff, whysoever, is a very controversial person, but he's one of the true healers I met. Yeah, I met others, not much, because there is not many. Yeah, really, but he's a real healer, let's say. Yeah, in his early years, especially, he could almost heal any kind of thing in any state. Yeah, and I came in contact, in fact, through my master, because he sent his wife, whysoever, to him. Yeah, and he healed her. She had a cancer in the uterus. Yeah, and he took it away from her, and it never came back. Yeah. So from then on, many of us went to him. Yeah, and then I came in a situation that my mother should have had a heart operation, because they found a hole in one of, I don't know, valve, or I don't know where they found the hole, but
well, there is a condition, hole in the heart, there is a condition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I said to my mother, you know what, Mama, why we don't go there, and we try first this before we make this very serious heart operation, no? And my mother, God thanks, was very easy person, a very special person, really, and she said, okay, we go there. So we went there, and he cut her womb open from left to right.
This is with a knife?
With a knife, yeah.
Wow. So and no anesthetic, just boom.
It was actually not a surgical instrument. It wasn't a scalpel, no. It was more a knife like you would use it for meat, but small, okay. like for a kitchen. I mean, I don't know how to describe it.
Well, kitchen knife.
Yeah, kitchen knife. Yeah. So he went into the belly of my mother, but like this, like bam, yeah.
But with this
full power, like this, not subtle, It was rather really more to kill her, in the way it looked like, than to heal her, right?
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I was really medium-sized worried, we can say, no?
Yeah.
And but he had a very strong emanation also, yeah. So when he came in, he was around 60, and he had a how you say this when you have this
hunch? Yeah.
Yes, a hunch, and he limped also. He was limping.
Yes.
And he was an old man, in a way, or elder, yeah. Yeah, and then he did that thing, and he was looking at me, smiling sometimes, because he understood I was pretty impressed, by what was going on there with my mother. Yeah, and my mother, she couldn't see, because she was laying down, no, so she didn't really notice, and she looked at me because he asked her something, so I had to translate for her, no. And it was really strong, it was really strong. And then he asked me my prayer beads, and I gave them to him, and he put them into the womb of my mother, and he bathed them, he soaked them in her belly, and then he threw it to me, and I was like, okay. And then he said, smell, and I was, and I smelled, and it was rose, rose, magic, So I don't know what he did, but he opened a rose garden in the womb of my mother, literally, and then he threw things out, and And then he closed the thing, and you could see a scar, you know. Yeah. And then he operated me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really strong as well. Yeah. He also cut me open, but not at the belly down, but here, like more this field, near the solar plexus, let's say, just under the rib cage. No?
Yeah.
And he went with his hand inside, yeah, and he took my heart in his hand, no? Literally, yeah, from inside, yeah. And that feeling, I mean, you can't forget that, you know. I mean, that was really blowing my mind, you know, yeah. And on top of that, he was somehow searching, you know. He came with the fingers and he started to search on my heart, you know, and it was really, really strange feeling. And then he grabbed something and he pulled it out, yeah. He pulled it out. And I was saying, "Oh, Stephen, what did you pull out of my heart, you know?" And he said, "Something which was not good there, yeah." And then he also asked me to bend forward, and he started to hammer my neck with a chisel, you know, and a hammer, yeah. Imagine, yeah, and I felt that blood came out and that it was running down my back, you know. And I was thinking, God, man, what he's hammering on my neck, you know, yeah. It was a little frightening, yeah, I can say, but it wasn't painful. Then he closed it, and at the end he embraced me, and he was saying to me, "Why don't you believe in the love of the Father?" Yeah. You know. And it was like, you know, really strong, really
Why
strong.
don't you believe in the love
Yeah,
of the Father?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it hit me very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, hit me very strong. And so we came in a kind of contact, and you know, he's doing all these magic things somehow. Yeah, I mean, you see that the strange thing is that he does real things, yeah, but he does also things which are not real, you know. And that gives a very weird factor, no?
Yeah.
And in his personality, he has a kind of naivety, let's say, you know, or innocence, I don't know how to say it. And for example, he got a lot of these photographs where he's photographed with very extraordinary images, yeah. Like there is rays of light coming on him or coming out of him, you know. There is things appearing in pictures, like faces or you know, things like this.
Anyway, I'm going to move on. I'm just looking at the clock.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, to make it short, he's not very skilled, let's say, presenting himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing was, though, that had an incredibly dramatic effect on you, didn't it? That's what I'm interested in. And you were just looking at the notes of what you told me on the phone. You were in darkness for a time, and then you were awoke, and you didn't feel the same at all, did you? You felt. Just talk us through that briefly, how you were.
Well, we had a seminar with Stephen, the first one actually he ever made, yeah, and it was in Como. I think Sheikh McNay was there as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? You were, yeah, I think you were there, and it was intense, very intense, and he explained things about physics and this and that. And during the seminar, I already felt something happening with me, you know, but I couldn't really grab it, you know. I just felt internally the need to clear out everything, you know, in my life situation, just to clarify everything, you know. And then, as a next step came, somehow detached from my personality somehow. I don't know, from my personal role or personal image, yeah. And I was somehow moving inside, and I fell in a kind of dark hole, darkness, blackness, yeah. Not just dark, but blackness, yeah.
Like a void. Could you say it was a void?
Yeah, but with the color black clearly.
Yeah.
Where there was nothing than this blackness, you know. But the blackness wasn't giving me fear. It was more that it was like embracing me, you know, like more coming into the womb of your mother somehow, you know. But it was very, very black, yeah. But velvet, you know, somehow. It's difficult to really say. And I was something got purified in it, yeah, let's say like this. And I came in a very deep silence, very, very deep silence, and I've felt then, after some hours, I felt unconscious, I fell asleep, yeah. And in the morning I woke up and noticed that everything was very shiny, very intense, very colorfully, very bright, very communicative, yeah. And when I came out of the house, I had a view on the Lake Como, and it was a beautiful day, and it was overwhelming, really overwhelming. Yeah. The beauty of what I saw was so immense, you know, and the connection to the sky, you know, and everything was embracing me, you know, and I was part of a symphonic happening, you know. Yeah. It was incredible, really incredible. And I came in a kind of ecstasy, let's say. Yeah.
And that stayed for a time, didn't it? Because Sheikh Nazim, I think, got a little concerned about you. And
no, Sheikh Nazim didn't get concerned, but people around me got concerned.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there was one brother who was also a friend of mine, and he called him. And he was saying that I'm appearing pretty different, let's say like this. And Mallanna said, tell him to come, and tell him also that he can't do it alone. Yeah. He is now in Maqam Fadani, that's what he said. Yeah. And so I came, and I wanted to come because I wanted him to see me, you know. Yeah. And so I arrived in Cyprus, and he was entering, and I was standing in front of him then, and he was saying, "Is it Burhanuddin, or does he just look like him?" Yeah. And he looked at me, and he took his hand over my face, and he was saying, "I accept your light." Yeah. And then we prayed, and in the coming days, I had very strong experiences with him because I understood that he was the only one who could hear me. Yeah. And also, I could hear him.
Yeah, and that's a true master, isn't it? Someone that can really hear you.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the clock, and we actually need to finish this interview. So we're going to do a part 2, a short part 2, which if you're watching on the internet, you can catch after part 1. So thank you for watching part 1. of the interview, and I hope we see you for part 2. So welcome to part 2 of our interview with the Sheikh, and we're just going to continue with his fascinating story and then look a little more depth about the work he does. After this experience, though, it took you, I think, 3 years, didn't it, to get back to really being able to function in the world. Yeah. So what happened during that 3-year period?
Well, I was, first of all, very blessed with a loving wife. Yeah. Even so, she was definitely scared, and the easiest were my children. In fact, yeah, they took it very nice and very sweet, and I was basically looked after by people. Yeah. Because I was not able to really take care for myself at that time. Yeah.
So it's like your character had been blown away. I'm just trying to summarize here so we can understand it.
Yeah, you could say that.
And that your human functioning was compromised somehow.
Yes, I was. I was very overwhelmed about the intensity in which I lived, and also the perception how I see people. Yeah. So sometimes I could hear their mind. Yeah. And I always felt very, very clearly what is happening to them. No. But I couldn't speak long things. So basically, I was saying things very short, yeah, and sometimes maybe too cryptic or too not understandable. Yeah. I slept very little or nothing. Yeah. I rested so, but I didn't sleep. You know, like I wasn't going into sleep anymore. Yeah. And in fact, my nights were busier than my days. Yeah. I was doing things, let's say, call it like this, in the spirit world. Yeah. And I left very much in between the worlds. Yeah. Somehow more on the other side than here. Yeah.
And so was it a gradual process to come back?
Well, it was a very gradual process, but it was initiated by the command of Mallanna, that he said, you are not useful in that state for others.
Yeah.
And you have to come back. Yeah. You have to come back, and you have to learn to live with it in a social way. Yeah. And I don't know how he helped me, but he helped me. You know. I think one of the magic parts of Sheikh Nazim was that he was really the master of the invisible. You know, that he arranged things for you in the invisible. You know, he could manipulate the matrix in any degree which you can imagine. Yeah. So he somehow arranged my life.
So I wanted to come on just to talk a little bit more about what you call seclusions, what we might call retreats. Do you still do those sometimes?
I have short kind of seclusions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just tell me more about what happens. I'm interested for myself really in what happens in short seclusion?
Well, it depends very much on your will, how much you want to know yourself. Yeah. You may have noticed that if you start looking, if you start watching yourself, very quickly you come to your fears. Yeah. And we can say that basically our common prison is our fears. All our personality are surrounded by fears. Yeah. All our images, at the end of the day, have the root in fears. No? And to pass through fears, yeah, is very necessary. Yeah. And in the system which I received from my Sheikh, the steps, they bring you to a point that you allow everything to be. Yeah. Wherever you observe, you don't try to transform it or to push it away or anything like that. You start to accept as a first step to allow everything to be there with you. Yeah. Whatever it is. And you should have a neutral, friendly, slightly friendly attitude, yeah, towards yourself. So that means you don't judge. You don't say this is good, this is bad, this is that. No. Yeah. And you do that in the position what we call the single player mode, yeah, which means there is no other. Yeah. There is helpers. This could be your wife, for example. Yeah. Helpers are people who hurt us and we hurt them. Yeah. And in the unconscious mode we can say that everyone who comes close to us, yeah, will be hurt, C or C. Yeah. Yes or yes.
So again, everyone that comes close to us, yeah, will be hurt.
Whoever came close,
yes,
and whoever comes close,
yeah,
unless you're not really really deeply conscious, will get hurt. That's what happened.
Will get hurt.
Will get hurt.
The word hurt.
And
yeah,
you will get hurt,
yes,
by that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a law. Yeah. That's one of the things we have to accept.
Yes.
Yeah. So, if there is still that mechanism happening, that you hurt and that you get hurt, yeah, that means there is still work.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that also has to do very much with the fears. Yeah. So to pass through one fear, the possibility that you allow yourself to go beyond fear, yeah, is really enlightening experiences.
So when you're on seclusion, and probably this happened to you more in the past than now, a fear comes up,
for
and
example,
you're staying with the fear,
yeah,
and you're saying you have a slight friendship with it. I think that was your word.
The first is to accept. The
yeah.
second thing is to agree. That's already completely different. Yeah.
Well, what does agree mean?
Agreement means that you really, from the depth of your being, you allow things to be.
Okay.
Yeah? Because acceptance is, you start on the surface. Yeah.
Yeah.
You say, okay, yeah, I let it be. But agreement is that it sinks down. Yeah. That you really don't want to move it anymore. You don't want to touch it. Yeah? You don't want to change it. Hmm? You
See,
just
that's the hardest thing, not wanting to change something that you don't like. That is the
yeah.
biggest human challenge, I think. Yeah.
Well, that is, if whatever you want to change, it is always because you want to recreate a role. Yeah. But you have to look to the image which is behind the mirror.
Mm.
You know, yeah. And if you want to reach presence, you can't come with an image there. You can't come with a role into presence. That doesn't work. Yeah. You have to forget yourself somehow. You have to be you without you. Yeah. This is the moment you are in. If not, no. Yeah. Whatever you wish, whatever you try, to calm down, it is not working like that.
Because you talk about the single player mode and the multiplayer mode.
Exactly.
So just explain a little bit.
The multiplayer mode is the usual mode in which we live. That means we accuse people, we accuse circumstances, we make others responsible for how do we feel. We want to criticize, we want to punish, we feel disappointed, we feel frustrated. We think to the past, we think to the future. Everything becomes a player. Our car, our flat, age, time. Everything is a player. And in that play, you try to sell yourself, to appear. And you want the other players to confirm you. That's not going to happen, really. Not stabilized. So in the single player mode, you understand that there is no other. So you imitate a divine position. Let's assume for a moment God would exist. There is a creator. All right. Now, to whom he can complain, to which shoulder he can lean. What can he say? He did it all. It just has to see, right? So how can he be in bliss? How can you be in bliss, seeing everything?
You see, I think for most of us in the West, I can understand what you're saying, and I can see the possibility of just the single player mode. In a way, in my terms, it's almost like you take responsibility for whatever's happening.
There's one side effect of it.
But let's say you're in a prison cell in Syria or something where you're not really a tourist. You haven't done anything wrong particularly. You end up there and you're getting beaten up, and it's terrible food and it's just dreadful. To stay in single player mode then and not blame the outside when you're in so much probably physical and also emotional pain is a huge challenge.
It's both. You see, whenever you come in a very extreme situation, you have very strong forces, and there is one which may drive you crazy, and there is one exactly the opposite. A very strong situation is not a situation which is necessarily worse than a good situation. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying this is what is good to do to people, or we don't go there. But let's say it will happen to you. You get kidnapped, whatsoever, and you end up in a prison in Syria, and you are whatever. But whatever it is, the process is always the same. You look to yourself. You are there. And now, in such a situation, in fact, it's much easier, to go into your single player mode. Because no matter whom you make responsible, what does it help you? You are there, you are pressed in yourself. Because in my understanding, every obstacle which happens to you is an invitation to make you realize that the answer is not outside. It wants to press you inside. All our existence finally presses us inside. Age presses us inside. When we get elder, we don't have anymore the sexual attractivity as we had when we were young. So already that is again something which wants to invite us inside. So an accident, a sickness, whatever it is which stops your planning towards the earth, towards the outer existence, is an invitation towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just reminds me, as a kind of example, I was talking to someone a time ago. My wife and I, Renata, were involved with a charity called Prison Phoenix Trust, and they do good work. They basically send people into prisons to teach yoga and meditation. And I was talking to a guy, he's out of prison now, he was in for 20 years, he murdered 2 different people, very violent crimes. And when he first went to prison, he was put in solitary confinement for a year. This is someone with no spiritual training. And I said to him, wasn't that incredibly hard? And he said, no, it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because I was able to take the time and realize what I'd done and start looking inside. That's which is, you know, it turned out he was actually uneducated, but actually a very smart guy.
Right.
But yes, to have that time, if you're able to do that, I can see great value in that. I just want to finish off by one thing you said to me, or I picked up from the notes that were sent to me, was that true enlightenment is collective. Can you just talk about that?
Did I say that?
Well, it was either you said it on the phone to me, or it was in the notes sent to me.
I think it is in connection with, you can be in peace by your own, with everything. But you can't be happy with everything. Yeah. So, as long as there is suffering, as long as there is our planet exploited and mistreated, our mother, let's say, we can't be in a complete peace. In myself, in my own personal story, in my own cosmos, it is possible. But in the moment we blend to each other, we have to find our hands together. We share always a common pain. So the final destination would be that everyone comes home into himself, and we see together with one eye, with one heart, with one thought, how everything is.
So the single player mode cannot be the final destination, because that is still focused on oneself to some extent.
Well, the single player mode is somehow imitating a kind of reality. But it is not an egoistic, just looking after yourself thing. That must be really understood. It's not that I don't take care for others anymore, but a helper can be a very egoistic person.
Absolutely.
While, let's say, in the single player mode, you don't become a helper, but you become more a servant.
Yes. Okay, Sheikh, I've enjoyed the interview very much. I find it very interesting.
Thank you.
And I love your story as well.
Thank you.
I know it's only a story, but it's a great story.
Thank you.
And thank you everybody out there for watching Conscious TV, and I hope we see you again soon. Goodbye.